This deep dive is about the cheerful, carefree crocodile from Sonic the Hedgehog, the classic incarnation of Vector the Crocodile. A video on just classic Vector, not his modern counterpart. I think you'd be surprised just how elaborate this guy's history is and the amount of times he's appeared in media despite only one game appearance. Enough dawdling, time to get into it. Vector's history goes back farther than even his first game appearance. Designed by Naoto Oshima, Vector was supposed to appear in the first Sonic game, appearing as the keyboards for a band. Not only that, far early in the creation process, he would have been part of the game's story and would have even appeared alongside the cast on the Sega logo screen. This was all cut at some point in production, and what was left planned was the band appearing on the Santa screen, which, according to an interview with Yuji Naka, despite being nearly completed, was cut at the very last minute due to time constraints. Quote, "The sprites had been created and everything. You choose a song, and the band would perform it while Sonic breakdanced. Oshima had drawn up a lot of different poses, and the graphics were all done, but at the very last minute, we ran out of time to include it." Once again, Vector's luck would run dry during the creation of the cancelled Sega Sonic Bros. Game. From the looks of cut sprites, he would have appeared in a small cameo. Alas, Vector did manage to snag an early appearance, appearing briefly in the Sonic the Hedgehog story comic in 1991, a prequel to the first Sonic game. This technically makes him one of the first of Sonic's supporting cast to ever appear in official media. He would also appear on the cover of the 1992 issue of Shogaku Sensei, with the rest of the Sonic cast at the time, and in a calendar for that same year. His first official appearance as the name-playable character would be in 95's Knuckles Chaotix. His initial design looks similar to his final look, only more muscular and with a grey underbelly. He still sports his iconic headphones, but lacks the Walkman. An alternate design featuring Vector in a Blues Brothers inspired outfit would have been used in the 1992 Sonic the Hedgehog manga. Unfortunately, this never made it past the design stage. His design was then revised once more before the release of Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, now looking much closer to his official classic appearance. Judging just by the official art and sprites alone, he appears to be confident and joyful, usually in an upright position and walking with an air of confidence, with a bouncing movement and ever-smiling face giving a carefree demeanor. Every sprite screams confidence or fun, whether he's dancing to his tunes or giving a thumbs up at top speed. The only exception is when he's using his dash move, showing a more serious expression, along with the hold and edge bounce animations showing a cartoonish expression of struggling. Even without knowing anything else about him, you should have a general idea of how he would behave. In the localization of Knuckles Chaotix, Vector is described as being cool and liking to dance to his favorite music on his headset. He also appears to enjoy trying out new foods and places to eat. It's described that he's already friends with Knuckles and chose to help him after he was rescued. Looking at this, it does match what you expect from the sprites. It also doesn't give too much to his character, just describing what anyone would have guessed. At least the tidbit about investigating the local food courts does give him an interest outside of just music. Though being fair, this is just a manual meant to give a quick view into the character. It does its job, no more but also no less. Now the Japanese manual is a bit different. His bio states he's 16, likes basketball and sports drinks, so we can guess he's energetic, and he hates noise, which can either mean literal noise or distractions. But let's face it, I know what we're expecting, and while the Christian Croc is still funny, I've decided to translate his bio myself, just to make sure I wasn't inadvertently spreading a mistranslation. Here is the original translation on screen. So in a near direct translation, bottomless in cheerfulness and conservatively optimistic. However, as a matter of fact, more than anyone else, a feeling of camaraderie is strong. Any difficulties, he will also face the strength and the kindness he has. Deity/spirit's existence he believes in. Miracle/wonder/marvelous island news was heard about, and island he is here. And now that I've spoken fluent stroke, here's my localization. Vector is an unapologetically cheerful and easygoing person. However, they have a strong sense of loyalty and will face any difficulties with both strength and kindness. He's also spiritual. He came to this mysterious island when he heard about it. You can tell from the translation, I didn't say believes in God. As funny as I think it is, him being spiritual makes a bit more sense. Anyways, I think we have enough in the Japanese manual to analyze him a bit. This Vector already seems like a selfless, brave, and kind person. As while he does go to the island with his own personal goals in mind, he still decides to help everyone and risk his life doing so, despite having likely just met them that day. I could even imagine him as the anchor who helps the group get along. That being said, he might be positive to a fault, and likely because of his carefree nature, it might seem he might even deflect or try to ignore any form of altercation, then actually try to defuse it. At worst, he does seem like someone who would engage in positive toxicity, even if it wasn't intentional. Another interesting thing is Vector's beliefs. It is possible that he went to the island to find some discovery. Despite this, Vector is so modern in many aspects. Now for the comics, which unfortunately for how many issues there are, plus multiple stories and it'll take way too long to go over that, so I'll be skipping straight to analyzing his character. Oh, Archie Sonic, you do get better, but you start out bad. This might be the worst version of the character, at least so far in the run. So far, he has been a one-note gimmick, having nearly all his dialogue just be outdated street lingo, and a rather minimal personality that's just sarcastic and rather self-centered. He's also a self-entitled wannabe bachelor, and all of it just makes him very immature and unlikable. The only thing going from him early on is that he's passionate, wearing his emotions on his sleeve. It does work as a trait that's simultaneously negative or positive depending on the context. I feel like all of this is a double-edged sword. As while these are negative traits, it does make him seem like a teenager, and really my main issue isn't how he acts. Flaws are what makes a character interesting and can lead to good growth in the future. My issue is that he's made worse as a person to make other characters appear better in context. And it's weird because while the book wants to think he's out of line, most of the time he's in the right, but just acts immature about it. As an example, there's a character that he despises, and it's mutual. The two of them hate each other. And it's due to them getting off the wrong foot, plus the fact that they were directly connected to the main thread of the story, and while everyone else on the team has forgiven their actions, and will even make excuses for them, Vector's still antagonistic towards them. The book wants you to think he's gone too far and that he needs to mature and get over it, which I think would make for some good growth on his part and be interesting. The problem is that in context, we as an audience know this person isn't evil, but there's just nothing to show Vector the character can be trusted, and they do nothing themselves to try and bury the hatchet either, or prove they aren't malicious, and even his friends will give him a good reason to trust them. And it's not like the antagonism is one way, they both hate each other and make it known. It seems so unfair that while both of them are acting conceited, Vector is the one solely seen as being in the wrong, also that this character and the lead of the story can look better by comparison. That being said, it is all negative, and you do get writers later on that try to fix him. For starters, his drink lingo is limited more and more, having him actually talk like a person, and he's shown to actually care about his friendships, to a point where he has to hold back tears when one member is forced to leave, and is mostly stressed when another dies. Yeah, Archie gets weird. He's also willing to try and stop being so antagonistic towards the prior character I mentioned, when it almost cost him a friendship, and while it is sloppily executed, there is a story with just him and the person he despises, where they're both treated equally in context, and allows for the first genuinely friendly interaction of the two. They bond over the fact that while they may never get along, they both realize the other truly cares about the same person, and it helps ease the animosity between the two. On more positive notes, while this version isn't tactical or smart, he can be surprisingly resourceful. In one situation, while at first it seemed he was just fooling around and not caring, it turns out he was actually trying to find a specific frequency on his Walkman's radio to tune into a tower and help find something for the team. Also, I personally like that this version of the character incorporates music into their personality. While Sarah said extremely one note, it is quickly toned down to be a hobby of his. The last thing we see his classic design do is use a giant towering speakers that blast music while scratching a turntable as an attack against an entire army, which is pretty cool. Yeah, this version was handled so poorly, but at least he ended with a bang. I do see potentially he might get better. Talk about Night and Day. This version of Vector is a tactical genius and possibly one of the smartest characters. While he is resilient and can fight, most of his strength has to do with using his wits. When he's in his element and can have his team coordinate a plan, he's nearly unstoppable with them. It's when he's forced to adapt on the fly that his flaws come in. If he's unable to properly coordinate his team, say from a surprise attack, he has a hard time making a comeback and is sometimes defeated. However, he's smart enough to know when he's going to lose in battle, and will retreat to attack in a more advantageous situation, or will find a way to solve the issue outside of battle. If the situation is completely out of his control, or he can't comprehend what's happening, he does struggle to keep up, and usually will let someone else lead, although he will try to adapt and at points will still able to provide highly useful information for others. In relation to his team, there's a deep bond between them, and you can tell that while he is tactical, a large reason he's a great leader is just by how he treats them. He's constantly uplifting his teammates when he can, nearly always complimenting them in some capacity, and making sure they're okay if they're hurt. He does really seem to view them as a unit. While he is rude to one member, shouting at them and at one point kicking them out of the base for being annoying, he still compliments them when they do something good, and is even shown in some situations that he does worry and care about their well-being. Even when one member betrayed the others, he thinks it's just them losing it and has to be told it's betrayal. Is the only moment I argue he's dense, but it does show the brief finale he was in. His faith in his team's ability and himself is a strength and a flaw too. He has a bit of an ego. He's extremely confident in himself and his team, not being worried about any danger, even ones that should be a large concern. That doesn't mean he's stubborn. If he knows or is shown that something is beyond his team, he will ask for help. Outside of his team, he can be harsh and show sass at times. If someone annoys him, he won't mince words about how he feels. He's not unpleasant, it's just that he has limited patience. Most of the time he's kind, even compassionate when needed, and is rather formal to those he respects. This might also be the most brutal version of Vector. There are some hints that he's willing to kill and even eat his enemies. Might have done in the past too. Although he isn't bloodthirsty and will go about trying to assess the situation first and find different ways to solve the issue. It shall be noted that before he attempted to kill a person due to a misunderstanding, he did make sure it was the right person he should be after, and once it apparent they had the wrong person, he immediately stopped attacking them. My only complaint about his character is a minor nitpick. Despite wearing headphones 24/7 and using a Walkman, I can't recall music or sound ever being associated with him. Overall, this is such a well-rounded and interesting character. Shame we won't ever see him again. And that's it for Classic Vector. I started research on this video thinking Classic Vector would just be a blip before his modern counterpart. To my surprise, there's quite a bit to him, and I thought it would be best to give him his own video. I had a lot of fun digging into his character. So how do you feel about the classic version of Vector?